I miss something? So, this first show of season 3 of The Mandalorian, it wasn't the worst thing I ever saw on Disney Plus, but it was a major disappointment in so many ways. It was straight up bad.
Season, and yet this turd of a show is completely aimless. Just goes to show us how incompetent Disney is as a company, because they have been given a golden IP with Star Wars, which could easily make them tons of money, but they don't know what to do with it and lack any talent to create anything good.
Isn't good. Even if the last 4 episodes are Oscar worthy, this season is still bad. Because what is actually the point of this show? What is the game plan, John? I cannot even try to predict where this show is heading, and that's not a compliment. I don't care about this show enough to try and guess what happens next.
Now this brings me to my next problem. This green fuck being in the way. He literally fucks around and ruins important scenes of dialogue by just being there. No, literally, the director of this episode points the camera at him when the camera should be on Mando, and he literally fucks around with the robot that Mando needs.
Most Star Wars episode of The Mandalorian. What was up with all the Mandalorian cameos? It was like an SNL special. I don't usually talk about Star Wars, but the newest episode of The Mandalorian is the most bizarre and fun episode of the entire show. The cameos shocked me so much. I didn't think The Mandalorian could get worse, and it did. Din is incompetent. Bo is the bestest ever, overloaded with useless cameos. I was one of the last people rooting for this show, and now I can care less.
Big yawn on Planet Lawn. Jack Black and Lizzo turned the Mandalorian saga into a silly satire parody. Every episode of this season has left me feeling a little disappointed and underwhelmed. Crossover Power Rangers and the Muppets. This has been a season full of inconsistency, confusion, messiness, and contrivances.
Guess who's fucking back, bitches? And I'm back at it again with another hit piece at this terrible show. Because honestly, I was hoping after these 2 episodes the show would be decent, but my god, no, I was completely wrong. But I'll get to my reasons later. For now, I'm going to be looking at a comment that I absolutely laughed at, because this was the only person that desperately tried to defend the first and second episode. Your opinion on an episode of a show isn't valid if you're unwilling to pay attention to the episode. Now, I shall explain your confusions. The tall visor of the helmet made in the beginning of the first episode is made for children, as a larger visor, and has accommodated smaller children, wherein claustrophobia and peripheral vision. Well, looky here, ladies and gentlemen, we have an expert on our hands. Well, if you actually paid attention to what I was saying, I was talking about the design of the helmet, not more so of where the visor was. That was not my problem. I was talking about the color schemes on how lazy and cheap it looks. Also, you fucking donkey, did you not state at all where it's accommodating for children's claustrophobia? The Mandos don't fly away while fighting the water animal. The fuck are you on about? Again, paying attention, it's a key thing. I literally say that they should fly away and shoot rockets at it or something else. They don't fly away. And I don't know, use their fucking rockets on their jetpacks and shoot it in its eye or mouth? When they realize their blasters don't do any damage. Instead of mindlessly shooting at the creature. Next, you say grenades are no better than blasters. Are you saying explosions are less than or equal to guns? Whoa, what? What kind of... Oh my god. Okay. If you're gonna be shooting laser bolts that go through people and creatures, and they're not penetrating its armor, what makes you think tiny-ass detonators are gonna do? If anything, they're doing the same exact amount of damage. Now, if they're dropping a nuke or missiles on the fucker, maybe they'll do something. Unlike my fucking brain-dead teammate here during the gameplay. And placing detonators on random spots of the creature, it's not going to do anything if you're trying to hone us in on one weak point so then you can actually kill the thing. It doesn't make much sense. I understand that's more so of a nitpick, but still, it's stupid. The next scene is not padding out the runtime. The episode is already short. They're re-explaining for people that didn't watch the dogshit Book of Boba Fett show. I'm sorry, I can't believe you wrote that and said, yup, that's a good point. My guy, if you're repeating stuff because your episode is too short, I don't know if you know this, but this just might be padding out the runtime. Show Don't Tell is literally the pinnacle of good storytelling. The clip you showed was in context if a book, which is very different to a TV show or movie. What? You know what? I think we're just gonna skip over that one. I think that might have been a typo. I can't even really make much sense of that anyway. Oh, well, editing Bo Unix here, I finally got what he meant. It was of a book. And yes, show don't tell is for writing, but you know, I don't know if you know this, but in film, it's also pretty important for show don't tell. And when it comes to the clip of Tim and Moby, yes, it was in context of a book, but again, you're still writing the script for the story. In play, the script itself is also a form of a book before it's put into film. I believe my show and don't tell point, though, did not really make much sense. And while Mando and Forging Mando Chick are talking, we have to learn something already new, that Mando has to go to Mandalore and bathe in this planet's cum or something like that. So how do the writers get around this? Well, they explain that off-screen, Mando met with some guy that was on the surface of Mandalore and found some sort of artifact that was on it and gave it to him. And he basically uses it as an example and tries to prove to the Forging Mando Chick that he can go to Mandalore to redeem himself. And that was fine, but the thing is, the writers suffer from something that I like to call show don't tell. Saying that they should show Mandalore, but they should at least show the guy coming from the planet, or at least some glimpses of it so they don't spoil too much.
Understand why you even did this to yourself. This made you look so fucking stupid.
And instead of Mando giving us exposition of that, he met some Jawas that met another guy that was supposedly on the surface of Mandalore that got this artifact that was crystallized, wouldn't that be kind of important to see his realization? Or even better, if they kept those 2 episodes that they put in Book of Boba Fett and put them into Mandalorian and then rewrote some of the scenes.
This shit make you look so stupid.
As what I was trying to say, again, was, I'm going to fix this part, is that for whatever reason, they didn't show him his reaction anyway, when it was kind of important knowing that, yeah, Mandalore is habitable, or as a glimmer of hope for his point. And I feel like there should have been an important scene to show, because, well, it would kind of explain why he would come back to this place, instead of just randomly pulling up and then explaining it in some boring-ass exposition. Whatever, I guess it just saves some money and some scenes, even though it could have been pretty useful considering this episode was filler anyway. What they should have done was have him struggle with finding evidence that Mandalore was habitable, and perhaps him finally meeting those Jawas and getting that piece of fragment that a guy mined off of Mandalore, and then we would see him come to a realization, oh, maybe it is habitable, and then he would come to the Forging Mando Chick and explain to her, like, yeah, this is doable. But yeah, hopefully that made a little bit more sense. Though this little green fuck isn't in the way. The show isn't supposed to be taken serious. Dude, he's cute and that's the point. There's no point in getting angry about his existence. Alright, I guess this is a Baby Yoda fan. Listen, he is cute, but if he's only there just to be cute in the story, what purpose does he serve? He's only there to further the plot. Fucking what? Like every other character in anything ever? Look, I fucked up my wording there. What I meant to say was, if you're there as a plot convenience, instead of, you know, making sense of being there to further the plot, yeah, you should not be there. Alright, after the ending of episode 2, where Din Djarin goes to bathe in the mines of Mandalore, he is redeemed again, but we get an interesting scene of Bo-Katan, where she sees this mythical creature that means, like, she's the chosen one. And I'm just gonna say, Bo-Katan should not be the main character. She should be a big part of the story, but quite literally, all of these episodes are just about her, and everything that's been happening and being built up to is just for her character arc, and literally the main character is being sidelined. Reminds me of another Disney property. But then the show gets dumb again. After they get off Mandalore and they go back to where Bo-Katan's castle is, they get absolutely bum rushed by random TIE fighters and TIE interceptors and TIE bombers. Her home gets absolutely destroyed, and then after they completely clap a bunch of random TIE fighters that spawned in, a bunch more spawn in. And I can't help but think, where is the freighter? A lot of people are actually saying this. I'm hoping it was just off screen somewhere. I know that sounds like a big cope, but I really do, because if that's the case, I don't think they know how TIE fighters work. They do not have a hyperdrive engine, except I think for Darth Vader's, but that one was special because, well, you know, it's Darth Vader's. But then they completely dip off of her planet because, well, what's the point of sticking around? Then he goes back to join the Cool Kids Club, proving that he joined. And yeah, that was fine. That's all really the episode did for, well, Din Djarin's furtherment in the story. But what was interesting is that we actually get to see what happened to the scientist guy that was in season 1. That was actually a pretty interesting character to me, even though he's pretty minor. But does he really serve a purpose or deserve an entire hour-long episode dedicated to him? Abso-fucking-lutely not. At least this version doesn't. But there was a lot of stupid shit that happened, like with the whole train, like, segment of the story where he was trying to get, like, parts to continue his work with this cloning shit. I don't even know what the point of it is. Well, nobody does, but nobody actually does care. I'm gonna quickly summarize this episode. Basically, this entire plotline is that this guy wants to get his cloning shit back and do good for this new republic, but they don't want him to. Then we meet some other character from season 2 that is supposedly gonna help him. Ooh, I wonder if he's gonna get betrayed. And then they go on this stupid goose chase to find a ship that has all the lab equipment from an old Imperial Star Destroyer. And then he gets set up and then gets absolutely tortured. Even though in the episode they stated they don't use torture devices. This is an Imperial device that they used. And they confiscated and destroyed all of it. And for whatever reason, they are using it.
That's just lazy writing.
And then the very guards that don't trust this woman leaves her to just, man the device. And then she just amps the device to probably kill him off screen. Anyway, that's kind of the episode. But the biggest problem with this entire episode is the loose connection, and if not, no connection to the main character. And it's not like the actor that plays this character did a terrible job. He actually played the role pretty well for what he was given. But the thing is, he was not given very much. And the episode as a whole was pretty jarring, and some scenes were downright kind of funny. Not in a good way, mind you, with the writers trying to paint the New Republic as this kind of terrible government when it really just shits on the older movies when they literally had the Rebel Alliance fighting for this new government the entire time. It kind of just makes all of those movies and the entire process of fighting the Empire pointless. But I kind of want to get back to talking about building up a side character or exploring a side character that we don't know much about and doing it the right way. In this episode, they attempted to do that, giving him some quirks and kind of having him with some sort of personality. And dog shit writing really ruined this idea of the episode overall and just making it useless and kind of weak. But I'm going to provide solution on how they could have done this better, and to truly show why this episode is flawed and hated. So as we know so far, that the scientist character had lost his mother due to not being provided proper medical supplies to save her. So this motivates him to do research on making clone DNA to help others around the galaxy to have properly provided equipment to heal and save lives, such as replacing organs that are failing. This is a really strong idea to get the audience emotionally invested in this character and to root for him to get his goal of helping others. But of course, the way I'm explaining this is as if he was a good character. Really, in the story, he's a bad guy, or a pawn being used by the bad guys. So generally, maybe instead of having the audience root for him, they can have us understand him. But the writers drop the ball as they use this motivator as a throwaway line and expect us to care. Now, a show that did this well is Avatar, and I'm going to use the episode that's titled Tales of Ba Sing Se as a basis and example of the right way to explore a character, or a side character. Now, this episode has many side stories, but the one that I'll be focusing on is about Uncle Iroh. Before he became such a wise and caring old man, he was a cold and brutal war general and didn't really care about the effects of war, until he changed into a peaceful, heartwarming man, and the show didn't really explain why or gave vague reasons how he became from a brutal person to a peaceful person, and this episode explores and explains why. And we see him throughout the episode caring for a crying child, or explaining why stealing is bad to a mugger, and caring for them. All subtle hints that he had a son. Now, towards the end of the episode, we see him sending a mural of his dead son, that I mentioned before, that he lost during the 100-Year War, explaining to the audience why he's so caring and anti-war. The concept of losing a loved one can be a powerful way of storytelling and showing a shift in character's entire personality, or motive. And it's kind of funny that the 5-episode-long segment of a show exploring a side character did a much better job than a show trying to do that for a whole hour. Now, what the writers could have done, much like the concept of Uncle Iroh's story, it was by having the scientist character pushing the healing concept without the mention of the motivation of his mother, but have his idea shut down nonetheless, until he tries to push harder and harder throughout the episode. Now, with no luck, and constantly being shut down until he has no option left but to steal the equipment with the random lady to prove that his concept can work. And have a few scenes of him struggling, being inexperienced at being slick and a thief, much like how the episode actually did, still pushing and getting what he needs. Now this leaves the audience questioning and wondering why he wants this stuff so badly, until we learn towards the end of the episode that his mother died, and we leave the scene with a quiet moment, or just have a scene of him having some sort of emotional reaction, explaining that to the other character. And I feel this would be a much more impactful and enjoyable part of the episode than wherever the hell we got with this episode. And then connecting it to wherever this part of the story is going to the overall story of the season.